Your API design tip of the podcast with our own API guru, Apitip06, next.
So, Lloyd and I are sitting here with Apitip06 for the API design tip. And together with us, we have a fourth participant, which is a bottle of champagne. And the reason for the champagne will be explained by Jarda himself.
Actually, it's not champagne.
It's not champagne.
Because it's not produced in France. It's a Czech version of champagne.
Well, that's better champagne. By definition.
Okay. I can apply this logic for beer. And actually, we can apply it for champagne.
Okay, so as I open the champagne, Jarda is going to tell us why we are opening it.
This is the last API design tip in the year 2008, and I guess we should celebrate the upcoming year 2009. To celebrate, let's have a bottle of champagne.
But there is more. There is more than that. It is not just for that reason.
Well, we need to name the year.
Yes.
Every year is dedicated to something. So let's dedicate year 2009 to Java annotations.
To Java annotations. Okay.
Wow!
Good timing.
I think parts of the ceiling have fallen down onto us.
We may have actually broken something in the ceiling.
In case you hear something falling, it's the ceiling fan.
We have to empty the little pieces of ceiling out of the glass before we can drink.
Such perfect timing. Okay, so the announcement.
Well, the year 2009 is the year of annotations, especially for the NetBeans project. NetBeans project is about to release NetBeans IDE 7.0 and NetBeans Platform 7.0, and this is the first version that we are going to really rely heavily on use of annotations. I guess that's a reason to celebrate.
Okay, so we have some questions first, of course.
Oh, okay.
So what is really the benefit of doing this? I mean, this is going to imply a lot of fundamental changes, I assume, in the code. So what is the benefit of this?
Basically, I have three reasons why to celebrate annotations.
Okay.
And one of them is NetBeans are going to replace the XML declarative registration that we have called XML file system, which every layer file, which every module can provide with use of annotations. One of your worries was whether it is a big change or whether it's done in a way that will hurt nobody. So the later option is the true one. We are really doing the change as compatibly as we can. Basically, all the previous registrations are still going to work. We are just adding on top of them the additional layer of annotation-based registrations. And the hope is that with annotations, you will get code completion for free. You will get find usages. You will have all the support that you have for your Java classes, Java code in the text editor, which hasn't been true for the XML-based registration. The mapping between the XML and the Java is weak. It's just semantic mapping, and the connection is not on the syntax level.
Yeah, there's already some support for annotations already, and the first thing I noticed is that I could use code completion. And this is really a significant benefit, that you're not using an XML editor, but that you're using the standard Java editor, and everything is integrated into the same place for all your coding. So I can see that benefit. Yeah.
And this simplifies the life of the API users, as you have just described, but also the life of developers. Because right now, the only thing you need to do is to write the annotation, write its Javadoc, and then also the processor that will generate something. But you don't need to provide a special DTD or special XML schema file. You don't need to create additional API support to handle the XML fragments correctly. We are basically going to simplify our life, the life of the whole world, a lot by using annotations.
So is there going to be a standard annotation for all the different APIs, or I imagine every API will have some different kind of annotation?
Well, there is one general annotation service provider for registering things in standard way, but then I guess the benefit is to have annotations next to the API that you want to register. So you wouldn't say, this is my object, register me. You would rather say, this is my action, register me as action.
Right.
That should be simple. So the basic pattern that has been discussed and that we agreed on is you have a class and then you have dot inner class named registration. So if you have class node factory, then you have node factory dot registration, and you know that you can create your subclass of node factory and annotate it with registration inner class, and that means I'm going to register this into the system.
So does it mean that for everything that there are currently layer support, for every single API, there will be equivalent annotations? Or will there be some exceptions where some things will continue to need to be registered in the layer file?
I hope that some things will not be converted to annotations, because they are complex, obscure, people are not using that too much, and annotation would make the API too visible, and people would be distracted with complexity of this annotation. So for complex cases which are not used that much, we should stick with the layer-based API. And actually we can do it because everything is done in compatible way. So we can mix the usage of layer-based annotations as well as the layer registrations, and things will work. So we do not need to create all the annotations for all the APIs. And also we can create the annotation incrementally in subsequent releases. As we see the need, we can expand the list of available annotations.
Let's look at, for example, the Windows system. So in the Windows system, there are a number of small XML files for the mode and for the instance class, which are registered inside the layer file. So how would you imagine that working with annotations?
I don't know about any work being done in this area. So not many people really explored how to change the registration of top components. I played with it a bit, and my goal was to replace the serialization with something nicer, more nicely generated XML file. And this would be work for converters, and this is exactly where the annotations would be perfect. Because right now there is API for writing your own converters, which can convert any object in memory into XML file, and then again read the XML file and recreate the object in the memory. And this API is there for ages, since version 3.4. But its registration is really complex, because you need to create 3 different files in the layer file system at different places, and you must be careful not to do a typo. Instead of that, we can have annotations annotating a class saying, use this converter to read and write this file, and the converter produces this DTD, for example. And this is simple annotation, and all the magic, all the complexity behind can be left for the infrastructure, for the processors. So the user of the API types simple annotation, and the processor, during the compile time, generates all the necessary pieces of file